Hello, everyone. This is John,
And Brian.
and we are here with Chrome Dash, writer of the epic fanfic Hope in the Storm. How are you today, good sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Awesome. So I guess we can get right into the questions. First question we have for you is, how did you get into the fandom? What is your brony story?
Alrighty, well, that's not particularly a very interesting story, actually. I was on Facebook, and I don't even remember who posted it, but somebody posted it. It was a video of, um, it was basically just an informative video of, why people are falling for this, why people are getting into this whole, girls' TV show. Nobody really understood it. So it was just a documentary about how it was a really well-written show, and a lot of people get a lot of inspiration from it, musicians, writers, all that good stuff. So, and I was never against it, really. I knew at least two people that I can remember that were bronies before I ever knew what it was. And so I knew about them. I decided to check it out. And I'm always an open guy. I never really hated the bronies or anything. I never was a hater or a parasprite, if you will.
Hmm.
So I decided to watch it, and by the first episode, I was pretty much I was really into the idea. I was like, oh yeah, this is a well written show. So I started watching it some more. I watched, I think, maybe 3 episodes in one night, and I went to bed. And I went to school the next day, and I found myself thinking about it, just how the plot and everything about it. And so and then I decided, wow, this is actually kind of interesting to me. So I went on and watched some more, and here I am today. I watched all the 2 seasons up to that point. This was about maybe May or early April, or late April, early May. So around that time, about during school. So I only really had time to watch it during the nights. And so basically, I just got hooked on the show from then, and the fandom really got to me, and here I am today writing fan fiction,
Mm-hmm. Now, was this late April, early May of 2012?
Yes,
Okay.
my bad.
It's all right. The second question we have for you is, where did you get the idea for your OC? I noticed that on the front of the jacket, it almost looks like the sun from Okami,
Uh-huh.
and then the back is the cutie mark is a CD of some sort. Where did you get the ideas for those?
Well, the design for the character was kind of a complimentary design. It was like the opposite of Rainbow Dash. That's where the chromatic mane came from. Originally, she was a recolor,
Hmm.
and I decided that that's lame, so I changed it. But the jacket is actually mine. I actually have that jacket in real life,
Hmm.
except the sun, or the red sun on it, is the logo I used for my old music page. It was called Palladium Light,
Hmm.
and I decided to just stick that on there for aesthetic reasons, and also just kind of to show what I was about, and show a little bit about how I actually was.
Hmm.
And the CD is just my the shared belief that both me and my OC would like to someday be musicians and produce music.
Hmm. That's actually quite interesting because considering your Skype mood, it's saying that whenever you go into FL
No.
Studio, you want to beat the crap out of your drum set.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I guess the next question we can ask is, what are you doing, like work-wise? What are your interests outside of
Interests.
ponies?
Interests. Well, right now I actually currently have 2 jobs. I'm working at part time at Subway, which is it's an okay job. I mostly just sing pony songs while I'm washing dishes. Yeah. Anyway, and well, the other thing I do is I'm in the school drum line, and I actually recently started teaching private lessons at the school I take lessons at. So I'm a drum set player, so I'm starting to teach for about 4 to 9 year old kids how to do basic drum technique. That's taking up a lot of my time. Drumline is taking up a lot of my time, so that's pretty much about like an insight into my life, what I actually do in my free time.
Now, is that indoor competitive drumline, or is that like
This
out
is
on the football
this is
field
marching
with?
band.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
with trumpets and everything else.
yeah,
Okay, very interesting. So I guess we can get into the next section of questions, which is going to be your fanfics. Uh, were you doing any fanfic writing before Ponies?
no, not at all. That's the kind of weird thing. The person who, or I guess, yeah, the one person who really got me into the whole idea was Aurora Dawn, the
Mm-hmm.
writer of Rainbow Factory.
Okay.
Yeah. So I read his fic. Yeah, it's a guy, and wow, I just fell in love with it. Like I recovered from shock and then fell in love with it
Yeah.
because it's a very jarring piece. But the idea that something like that could be inspired from a show just like blew my mind.
Yeah.
So
And,
that inspired me to find his page on FimFiction,
mm-hmm.
and I went from there. I made my own page pretty much just so I could follow Aurora Dawn,
Mm-hmm.
and I started reading a lot of other stuff. Green was one of the ones that really got me into shipping, the shipping scene. But that's a really good fic if you want to read that one. But so I started reading, and then I got my own ideas for my fics, and I decided, hey, I might as well try this out. And like I got into it. I started writing the love interest of Ponyville, and it went from there. A lot of people liked the first installment, and pretty much that just set off my career.
Hmm. Now, out of all the fanfics that you've written so far, which is your favorite?
Which is my favorite. Definitely Hope in the Storm.
Okay.
By far.
Yeah. Okay, so then we can get into Hope of the Storm.
All right.
Let's see. I guess Brian has a question for you here then.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you come up with the whole idea for chapter 1, bringing Rainbow Dash into life?
Well, that's a hard question. I can kind of tell you how I got the idea of the whole fic in general. I kind of got the end before I got the beginning. I don't know if you've read it, but I wrote a story called Rarity's Little Scout. And if you've actually read it, there's Arrow is the main character. And I wrote this way before Hope in the Storm. And he's working for the Storm Scouts, and he talks to there's a scene where he's talking to Valiant Wing about how underappreciated he is, and how he's talking about the Ponyville weather team. He's talking about how ungrateful the head mayor is, and how just kind of snobby and just kind of ungrateful she is. And I don't know why I wrote this, but Valiant Wing retorts with how it's a long story. You'll have to go back and read that part, but he starts to stick up for Rainbow Dash, who's the head mayor of Ponyville.
Mm-hmm.
Valiant Wing does. So that gave me an idea, like, what if there's something out of this? What if there's something more to just this scene? So kind of one scene out of one of my stories that I didn't even finish is the basis for the entire idea of Hope in the Storm. So I started writing that. I wrote the first scene while I was writing Rarity's Little Scout. And I honestly cannot tell you where the inspiration for the first chapter came from. It just seemed to kind of fall into place as I formulated the ideas in my head.
Yeah, it's written real well, though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite part, actually, of that is, like, because her mom, like, closed her eyes or whatever, and all of a sudden, then she got all, like, gray or whatever, and
Yeah.
Rainbow Dash
That her
started
life
getting her
force
color.
was transferred.
Basically, yeah.
That was
clever.
Very clever, yes, definitely. And then you have another question?
Yeah, where did you come up with the idea for Arrow?
Arrow is actually kind of based on my two people, actually. He's based on my older brother, which is you can obviously see the older brotherly aspect of him
Right.
throughout at least the first 6 chapters or so.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also based off my best friend when I was a kid. His name was Aaron, and that's the basis for his name and also just his mannerisms. The way he's kind of not talkative at the beginning, at least.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do understand that you have told me before that you kind of do want to do a rewrite of, I believe it was the first 4 chapters of this fanfic.
Yeah, when I was going into the story originally, those were the first 4 chapters. I think it was the first 4. It was either first 4 or first 5.
Mm-hmm.
I released at once, and I kind of wrote them all in the same style.
Mm-hmm.
And the style is not very... It's very simplistic, and there's not a lot of description. And I just felt like it could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. The only real flaw that I see with those first 4 or 5 chapters is that you do keep repeating the story I've heard 1,000 times. But other than that, I still find it to be very enjoyable, very engaging.
Right.
Totally.
So I wouldn't have gotten hooked on this fanfic if it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Enough people seem to have liked it, so might as well just go with that.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess the last question we can say for Hope in the Storm is, I do understand that you are planning a part 2 of the finale. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And then...
Because...
No, keep going.
Well, what happened was, when I started the story, when I first based it off that one scene, I based it with an end in mind, and that definitely was not the end, so expect more.
Okay. But yeah, I think it was a good idea to mark it as complete for now.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it does leave you wondering a little bit what's going to happen, but it does close it up quite well for right now.
Yeah. And if you didn't notice, Applejack talking about the Summer Sun celebration,
yes,
it ends pretty much a week before the first episode of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That actually brings up another question. I do know that this was a week before the Summer Sun celebration, and when I was reading it, I did notice that Applejack did give Rainbow Dash some of her cider, and how heavenly it tasted to Dash.
That was an accident.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute, it makes sense now.
Yeah. But one thing that always kind of nudged me the wrong way with that is that if we go over to Super Speedy Cider Squeezy 6000, it almost seems like Dash hasn't gotten it in years.
Right.
And then I began to think, you know what? Considering the continuity of this show, it's probably a couple years after what happened.
I mean, no one really knows how long the show, or the time frame of the actual show, so it's all up to question, it's all up to interpretation at that point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I guess the last section we'll be going to is your newest fanfic that you have in the works. Right now, specifically just about the character Real.
Yeah.
Can you give a little bit more insight on that?
As far as the story or more the character?
I'd say both, if you're able to.
Well, the story idea started off as it's a storyline that sets up the writing of a book, and the book is called A Relapse in Wicker's Guide to the Departed, which is basically it's a comprehensible guide to making a living, saving or exorcising the dead from haunted sites. So the character Real gets into the job by accident. He goes into a haunted house, and he meets a departed, which is what they're called in the show or in the book. And when in truth, that's actually basically a ghost. So he helps the departed realize why he needs to pass on, and so he gets his cutie mark, and the cutie mark is a book. So he doesn't know what that means. He's confused, and he decides to set out and try to realize what that actually means. And
Very
he makes a
interesting.
friend along the way whose name is Wicker. She's a unicorn who has an affinity for just magic in general.
Hmm.
And so they basically, I don't want to give a lot of spoilers, but they go along on their journey to save a bunch of pony souls from being trapped in a kind of pool of hell, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it was definitely very, very, very well written for the character description, at least, because when I was reading this, actually, I was with one of my non-brony friends, and I'm actually going to be sending him a edited version where I take out all the pony aspects of it, and then send it to him. Because even if you take the ponies, even if you put the ponies into it, it's incredibly diverse, and I've never seen that many sides to a character for a fan fiction before.
Yeah. I put a lot of thought. This is why this story hasn't been written yet.
Mm-hmm.
I came up with this idea at least a month ago, and it's still going.
Yeah.
I need to make another character sheet for Wicker and all the main characters of that book before I even consider writing the first chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we end here, is there any shout-outs you'd like to give to anyone you know?
I guess I'm going to give a shout-out to my friend Misfortune, who basically is my venting brony friend who I talk to about all my story ideas, whether he likes it or not. And I'm going to give a quick shout-out to Blake, who's the main admin at my Fluttershy page. And that's about it.
All right, cool.
All
right, well, thank you very much, Chrome Dash. This was definitely a very interesting interview.
Yeah, thank you. That was actually a lot of fun.
All right, and this is me, John.
And me, Brian.
And we will talk to you guys later. Peace.
Later.
Bye.